What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. Joining me this week is Justin Davis,
Scoop.
Sam Claiborne,
T-Scoop, apparently.
Tina Amini.
I apologize for my voice.
You were doing your intro, and I was going to take a sip of tea, and I couldn't tell if I had enough time to drink it or not before you got back to me.
Did it burn going down?
Well, I decided to wait. I didn't.
Yeah.
It'd
be great if you just spilled it all over yourself.
That would be good TV.
This is no tea hate.
TV. We've got a great show for you this week.
Clearly.
We're going to talk about some significant sales milestones that multiple consoles are reaching. We got to talk about, we got to wish a happy birthday, a 30th birthday to our little Game Boy.
Nice.
Over there.
I was
30 in a day.
In my mind, I was trying to figure out who the little Game Boy is.
Who's the little Game Boy?
The little Game Boy is
is it
all
Destin?
of us.
Destin
Because Justin didn't read the show notes.
Destin is our little Game Boy.
It makes for a more dynamic conversation.
But first, Tina, I believe you attended your first California Extreme.
I did. It was
Over the
amazing.
weekend.
It's part of the reason why I don't have a voice right now. But it was well
Shouting
worth
over.
it.
I thought you were just testing out a new radio voice. We all do that
Yeah,
occasionally.
this is NPR with Tina Amini.
NPR with Tina Amini.
I don't know. This is the first radio thing I think of.
Yeah.
And California Extreme is a big arcade and pinball expo. One of the largest at least on the West Coast.
And one of the oldest. I didn't know that until they had a little brochure this year, and I was reading it, and it was they're 23 years old. And so if you think about that, that's in the mid 90s, they're we're going to make an arcade collection, collectors convention. That's crazy. That's only a couple years, 10 years after arcades collapsed at that point.
It's actually a giant event. I've only been one time, but I was surprised at how big it
And
actually
they expanded.
Yeah.
There's 2 rooms.
2 rooms, and they're big rooms.
They're quadrants.
Bigger than Sam is making it sound.
2 rooms doesn't sound that big.
I got to
know.
say,
That's smaller than my house.
they're really,
Yeah, but it's
really
a
big
whole
rooms.
thing.
I can't believe how many games are there. There's over 1,000 games.
So much so that you can kind of quantify each corner of every room and say here's the rhythm area and this is the vector-based area. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll also come out of the show and talk to somebody and be like, yeah, I really like this game. Be like, I never saw that game there.
Yeah.
Even if it was a popular game that you were looking for. You just
Or
might
that
have
game
never
had
seen
a
it.
long line and I did not get to play
Yeah.
all the very end.
Yeah.
Do you have long
From
lines?
Oh, the lines are stupid this year.
Yeah.
They should give you a line cutting pass like at Disneyland. We can pay a little extra.
No.
Yeah.
sorry.
A flash
That,
pass.
that exists. You bring, more than 3 giant arcade machines and you get to play all Friday night, which is what I did.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
So, Tina, what were some highlights?
Let's see. I played a ton of stuff. I really like Destruction Derby. It just happens to be on the top of my list. I think it was a modified version.
Death Race.
Yeah.
Oh, but does it still look
was
like Death Race?
Yeah, so it was like a cleaned
like a more
up Death
PG.
Race.
Yeah, exactly.
Family friendly.
So it's two steering wheels, and what do you run over? People? in it?
Yeah.
You still run over people?
You still run over people.
not-
but it
so it's
turns
just
into,
Death Race.
Well, no, but isn't the death animation different? It gets
It must
because
be.
it's just a cross. Whereas you said it was like a skull.
Oh, you turn to gravestones? I think that's all the same. So the idea with Death Race is that it was the first game that was kind of controversial because it was about,
Yep.
accruing points for running people over, and people were like, this is teaching people to, be evil. But it's so silly when you see it. It's actual stick figures for graphics.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's black and
It's
white.
not the most controversial game of all time.
Yeah,
We'll say
but it's
that.
2-player, which is fun.
Yeah, that
And
was
it has a
really
little
fun.
steering,
And it has a steering wheel.
and then a gas pedal.
Yeah, it has a gas pedal as well. And I really liked it because there's these little nuances that you can totally see as it's the conversation of it's not a bug, it's a feature. Because if you if you run over someone or if you hit the guardrails, there are 2 guardrails on either side, it basically stops you in your place. But if you hit reverse and then quickly go back into forward, which is sort of a stick, a lever kind of situation, then you can just quickly move out of it instead of jamming on forward to begin with. So it was this a little nuanced thing that got me really competitive towards
And for
it, 'cause
a game that's from 1978 where there weren't a lot of games out at that time, that's pretty amazing to kind of program that.
Exactly.
Death Race is
I don't know
also
if it was
an
intended,
insane
but-
movie.
I've never
Yeah.
seen the movie.
Yeah, this is not based on that, but it's it's
Is it a totally
exploiting
separate
the
thing?
title.
It's a totally separate thing?
Yeah. And it has really cool art, and even the Demolition Derby, Destruction Derby, whatever has cool art. It's
Destruction
just
Derby.
it doesn't have the big
Oh,
skeleton
it's-
on it and stuff.
Yeah, it's very basic art.
Oh yeah, that's right. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It didn't have side art. I can't remember.
No, not that I remember. But then there's Warlords that we played together.
What, the original Warlords?
The original, and then also Star Lords, which is like a revamped version of that. That was fun, but more frenetic in a way that I didn't love. I felt like there was more strategy in Warlords. And it was
So
slower
Warlords,
pace.
it's can you explain the gameplay?
So you're basically protecting your castle, and you have what is it around?
four
your
players.
castle? Yeah, it's 4 players.
You got a wall around.
You got a wall around you. And it's basically Pong, where you're hitting in to other castles and trying to destroy.
And the
their
corners
base.
of the screen, the Pong ball is going around, and then you're
Bouncing at
defending
all
your
angles.
corner, and
Yeah.
everybody's like just kind of like defending their castle with like a little paddle, like Pong or like Breakout, I guess is more like it. And then you just kind of like the other Breakout bricks are other people's castles, so you're just taking them down.
And you can strategize by trying to aim for one corner so that you're drilling down a path to their castle. Because the second you hit their castle, they're done. So there's a lot more strategy, I think, to Warlords. But Starlords was fun. It was more of a like, people are cheering around you because it's going really fast. And before you know it, you're like, how the hell did I just die in 2 rounds?
So Starlords is a brand new 6-player game worked on by Mike Micah and Jeremy Williams, who are locals here who we know. And they kind of made that game just for fun. It's beautiful. It's like it has a light show and like there's all these like moving lights on it. Like look up a video. It's really amazing. And Warlords is like a classic fun game. And it's cool to like just have like a fan project that looks like that. And it's so cool.
This is just a neon version of it. Neon faster.
I don't know why they're doing it just for fun, because like Killer Queen was such a big hit, and there's more and more new arcade cabinets coming out.
It's what
Seems
they
like
call
there's
a
market
big
for that.
footprint, Damon.
Big footprint. What? It just takes up a lot of space.
I think so. Yeah.
So does
they
Killer Queen.
I hope. Hopefully they'll
really,
have some
though.
custom orders or something like that.
Was Up and Down the racing game that we played?
Up and Down was the game where it's like a silly little
you're going
car,
on it, yeah.
and like
You're
you
going
drive
on a
down a track,
zigzagging
top
track.
down. Yeah, you could explain it.
Yeah. There's just like these diagonal zigzagging kind of like diamond looking levels, and you're just jumping over other cars and barriers and whatever else. But you're trying to jump over it and land right back on the track. And I could not figure out, because we only played a few rounds, so I could not really figure it out entirely. But it was fun. It was like a silly thing because you're dying every.
That's a good example. Of like it was a full arcade cabinet with like art up and down, and I've never heard of it before.
I've never heard
I
of
will
it.
never see it again.
You know what year it would have been?
It was like a weird company. It was in a line of weird companies, and
Yeah.
that one was like I've never even heard of the
Forget.
company, and there was like 10 other games from them there. Like some collector like went out of their way
Yeah.
to find this like maybe like an Italian company that made this game. It was really funny.
Well, yeah, like
that one actually that one was like Bally, Midway, Sega. Remember that it had the three names on it?
That's right. Because you mentioned
Bally,
that.
Midway, and Sega.
There's weird parallel universe Italian pinball.
1983.
Like, it's a whole weird different
83.
thing. It developed on this like parallel path.
It was later ported to the Atari 2600, ColecoVision, and the Commodore 64. But it's from 1983.
I like. Oh, well, that will probably never even be a
I don't know if I
stream
described
again. It's
that
like
well
such a weird, obscure game.
Yeah.
I love stuff
I don't
like
know
that.
if I've ever seen that or not.
Cool.
Yeah, we hadn't heard of it
And
for sure.
you played Fire Truck?
Yeah, Fire Truck was fun. I played
I
that one with
love
Zach.
Fire Truck.
Yeah.
Black and white game.
We were pretty good at it. I mean, like it's one of those never-ending things. So you're just ramping up against your own score, but you get into a real rhythm with it too. And it's sort of, in a weird way, it reminds me of Portal 2, just because of the co-op, like the symbiotic nature of the co-op that you need to have. Like you and your partner need to be like reflexively anticipating each other's moves and compensating for one another. Like I could tell on certain turns I should go a little bit like tighter so that Zach, who was playing on the trailer,
caboose.
yeah, so that he had a little bit more room to maneuver based on the momentum and like the speed that we were going at. So it's a lot of like physics that you're kind of thinking
totally
about
is.
and like anticipating how your friend is playing and kind of compensating for that. So that was cool.
I love that game. All right, 1 or 2 more.
Okay.
Can't spend all time on this.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I really liked Attack from Mars.
The pinball game.
Yeah. So we played a bunch of pinball games. I also played NBA Fast Break, which like I did not understand. I should not
Well,
play
and that was a
sports-related
linked
things.
pinball machine.
Yep.
So there's 2 side by side, and you have like a minute and a
I'd
half.
never seen that before.
It's like a whole different quarter
I've
setup.
never seen that game.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of like shoot for like hoops, and the hoops are all like ramps and stuff. But it's like a full-fledged pinball machine that's linked.
Yeah.
Very unusual to see that.
I know that Sam was far more enthusiastic about Atari Star Wars and Major Havoc, though.
Yeah.
The original Atari Star Wars. Yeah.
Yes. But you got to sit in the environmental cabinet, and that was broken by the time I got around.
Oh no, that's a bummer. Aw.
Which feels like
that was
you're-
really cool.
I feel like you're in a fair ride when you're
Yeah.
playing that. I think it's a really
I felt
cool
like I
launch
was
experience.
flying. Yeah, it was cool.
But it's not like, it's only the screen and you and the controller. There's
Yep.
no like motion or anything like Afterburner had. But it feels really cool to be inside that. The game that was next to that, I think that I really liked that I discovered this year is called Tax Scan, which is like the dumbest name. Like why would you brand your
Like
game with that?
TAC?
TAC Scan.
Okay.
I don't know what it means. It's completely stupid. Like you'll see it across the room. The art is dumb. Everything about it looks stupid. But it's a Galaga type game or Galaxy, like a shooter like Space Invaders. And but you're a little squadron, and you have like 9 little ships or 7 little ships, And as you like are taking out, and you can shoot them all at once. So it's like having an what is it called in Life Force or whatever?
An option.
An option. It's like having 7 options, and they're all firing like this great little squadron. You're like, I'm kicking butt, and then they just get picked off, and it's this really loud like,
Yeah.
and it's really sad, and you lose them. And then you have a button that you can regenerate them occasionally with, and then also sometimes you find them out in space, and you can kind of like line up with your squadron and pick them up. But whenever you find them in space, another little ship is there to just mess you up that has like homing like lasers, and you're just trying to get your new ship. And you're just like, I'm going to get my squadron back, and it just comes in and just destroys the rest of your ships.
And you lose your baby ships. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you only
It's
have
like
one
losing
life.
your children.
Yeah, yeah. And so those are your lives.
And then you just
too.
find them in space randomly again, and it's fine.
It's a vector game, so it's beautiful.
Vector games
so
are
This
beautiful.
was in the vector area.
Yeah, the vector region.
Victoria. Justin, would you consider taking your kids to California Extreme?
Oh,
Yeah.
you totally should.
I think that'd be really fun.
Also, real quick, there was a vector-based version of Flappy Bird, but it was called Flapping Bird, and it was more difficult than Flappy Bird somehow.
My daughter has been in the office a few times this summer, and she asks to play pinball a lot. We have pinball tables here.
We do have a few pinball tables. All right, let's move on and get to some of the news of the week. The PlayStation 4 has passed a significant sales milestone. It's over 100 million units sold.
Amazing.
Not only is that a nice triple-digit number, but it's in like the upper echelon now of the highest-selling consoles of all time. And it's less than 3 million units away from leapfrogging both the Wii and the original PlayStation.
That's the mind-boggling thing to me. Is like, I mean, PlayStation, whatever. Like we're 25 years after that now, but the Wii was like a very, very big pop cultural moment pretty recently.
Yeah.
And it exploded, and everybody seemed to have one. And I don't feel that way about the PlayStation 4. Like it doesn't. I clearly like the family situation with Wii was like it's additional parents and grandparents buying that was like an additional crowd that was buying it. But PlayStation's just going to people that play video games.
The Wii has such a reputation for like expanding the horizons of like who plays video games and has a game console, and all these grandmas have Wiis. My mom has a Wii, but the PS4 doesn't have that reputation, and it's going to end up selling more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, weirdly, I suppose anecdotally, when the Xbox One and PS4 came out, like I used to be more of an Xbox player, and I sort of shifted over, and I think all my friends did too. And so, just for my personal group and bubble, we all just kind of decided collectively, like we were just going to be PlayStation 4 gamers.
They definitely took like the number of core gamers and console core gamers is only increasing. And so that works to the PS4's benefit. Like there's more people interested in owning game consoles than there was in the Wii times. And I think you're right that the PS4 just ate Xbox's lunch, right? So from a sales perspective, what used to be maybe a little bit more split, the PS4 kind of ran away with it.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the number one best-selling? PlayStation 4 is now 6 on the list out of 15.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at our list, we include handheld consoles in there too.
Yeah, but do you know the number one?
Is it, the number one of all time is PS2.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably never going to be beat.
The PS2 was $99. Was super cheap for like a long time. Yeah. So
it's like
it was the DVD player too that everybody wanted.
Yeah. It's like 155 million.
What was the highest selling handheld? Was it
Nintendo DS?
It was just the DS, huh? And it was like 134 million or something.
And then Game Boy Color, which is relevant. Two other things we were talking about.
I think the PS4 stat probably has this asterisk against it, along with Xbox One, that there's PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. So, they get to count, like there's 2 PS4 households, and they get to count those consoles twice in their 100 million figure. So in terms of like household adoption, like that's not a stat we can get at, but PS4 is probably not as impressive as the Wii or some other consoles. Because people bought that console twice.
There was a revised...
Should we include the Wii U and the Wii's numbers?
But those minor revisions don't count. Like this generation of like the actual plussed up consoles, like that's a new phenomenon.
That's true. We could probably combine the Wii and GameCube numbers.
Aww.
Yeah, I guess I'm of a few minds with that. It's like the number of gamers out there is always increasing, right? So I guess it would make sense that, consoles should be selling more and more. But then the PS2 seems like just such an anomaly in there. When you look at it's just so far ahead of everything else.
I think it's the DVD.
That's it?
Yeah, I mean, if we change, entertainment mediums one more time, which I don't think will happen, but that would be a reason to pick up these consoles again.
I mean, I don't have a 4K Blu-ray player, but I will when the next gen consoles come out.
That's a good
Although
point.
I don't have a 4K TV yet.
Yeah, my consoles have always been my media centers, essentially.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people.
Yeah, and those consoles they seem to be, this is my anecdotal truth. I would be curious to see the real data, but I don't feel like they're dropping in price as fast as they used to. Like consoles used to sort of always be dropping in these like $50 increments, like from the moment they were announced. They're just getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until eventually they hit this inflection point and then everybody buys one.
Yeah.
But the PS4 and Xbox One, like they've had really big sales, even on Prime Day. Like we sold a lot of cheap PS4s through IGN deals, but they're not reaching that like, oh man, it's so cheap. I'm finally gonna like there's this whole audience of people that are open to buying a PS4 or Xbox on the cheap, and like I don't know, man, like next gen's almost here.
Yeah,
and like that kind of never happened.
Yeah, like
I wouldn't be surprised like that we're at a standstill because everyone's just anticipating next gen.
They'll drop. We'll probably see them like probably significant price drops this Christmas to try to like squeeze out what they can out of this gen, and then that'll probably be it because then next Christmas is next gen.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the PS4 is 6 years old now.
Yeah, it's wild.
So like, how much did the NES cost when it was 6 years old in 91 or 92, right? Like, it wasn't $250.
That may be totally wrong. Like, I'm really curious after the show to go look at the stats on like when and how quickly did consoles drop in price. But my gut check is that they're holding their price more now.
Probably a good infographic in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Sony also reported that, or I guess over the last quarter, their software sales were 53% digital. I think that was the first time that
Makes sense.
flipped over.
That's just such a big deal for like Sony and then also developers to like be making that money directly instead of printing a bunch of discs. Like that's a huge change, and it's probably one of the reasons we can keep games at $60.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Hoses GameStop.
Hoses GameStop. There are some concerns with that. I know some people really prefer to have physical discs.
Oh yeah.
Those copies of games.
Absolutely. You can sell the games, loan the games,
You always have it.
trade the games.
Get it signed.
But they also confirmed that even though they're selling all these consoles, just crossed 100 million, in the last quarter, they lost 200,000 PlayStation Plus subscribers. I thought that was surprising.
That is surprising.
It's like, that's just something, it's just auto renews and I never even think about it.
But why?
What do you mean?
I'm just curious. Like, that's really surprising to me. Like, where did those people go?
Exactly, yeah. And why did they decide it? No, this service is not for me.
Yeah, I think they predicted that it was because some of their software sales or third party was lower than they anticipated. Was that what it was? I think they were kind of like attributing it to potentially that. And they said the rest of their year too was looking lower than they had originally predicted.
Yeah.
And that might be the next gen effect.
Well, they definitely said that overall PS4 interest has sort of like cooled off since, because of the impending PS5, which is kind of a problem because it's a long ways away. Even on this show, we're like, oh, PS5 is right around the corner. It's like, not really. It's like 18 months away. So it's like they have to work harder to sustain interest in the PS4 between now and then. But, I don't know. It's hard. That's a big challenge.
The online service, yes, there's like Call of Duty and stuff like that people play online. There's plenty of console games that people play online, but like the big games that people are playing online right now are not exactly PS4 special games. They don't have like exclusives that people want to play. So it's like if you're gonna play Fortnite, you can play on your phone. If you're gonna play, so many other games are on Steam, Switch, stuff like that. Like I don't know if you need a PS4 connected online to do a bunch of gaming.
That's a good point. The Sony's big games this year are Days Gone and Death Stranding. Not, both single player games.
Paying for online is kind of a racket.
Yeah, and then last year,
we'll
too,
see
it was
about
God of
single
War.
player.
God of War, Spider-Man last year. They're not pushing big exclusive online games. And
I feel weird about Death Stranding because when we were at Comic-Con, I went to Kojima's panel and he was talking about Death Stranding and he was being so cryptic about like the multiplayer feel and the strands and how they're connecting all of us. So I don't know if they're trying to tease something about multiplayer. That's just an aside.
It's actually very unclear. Like if I have PS Plus, so I don't think about it that much. If I didn't have PS Plus, would I see messages from strangers in Dark Souls? Or is that only online? Like, do you have to pay for online to get that?
I cannot answer any questions about Dark Souls.
But like, what triggered
get any of
No
us?
comment.
My assumption is that Death Stranding is going to have some form of like asynchronous, like
Right.
other players are impacting your game world and
You're
stuff.
seeing the shadows of them. Maybe they impact your
and-
storyline in some way.
Maybe I'm wrong, but my assumption is that you're not like sitting down and playing this game online.
Yeah, I don't think it's
person.
traditional multiplayer. Yeah.
Then I don't really know how like online subscription.
It's just
fees
battle
work.
royale. It's 100 strands versus 100 strands.
That's the big twist.
He's just been making a battle royale game this whole time.
This whole time.
It would be a twist.
Everyone's Norman Reedus.
Oh boy.
All right, so 100 million for PS4, and the Nintendo Switch is currently at 36.8 million.
Yeah, it's kind of cooled off too.
You think so? Maybe it's cooled off? I don't know.
Yeah, they had to scale back their
only-
their projection significantly. they had this huge bullish projection for last quarter that they didn't come close to hitting.
But it is, 40% of what the PlayStation sold in 2 years.
And
6.
close to the last reported numbers of Xbox One, which is about 41 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless Xbox has sold a bunch more that they're still not telling people about.
Considering it was like a fix for the Wii U too, like it's been doing pretty good.
I mean, the Switch is a runaway. Like, to be clear, it's a smash hit, but it's like, does that console have another 70 million in unit sales ahead of it? Like,
You just got to make it yellow and attach the side controllers to it.
it's not new.
If only
anymore.
EA would support it more.
That's true.
The new console shine.
We're giving you segues here, Damon. The two just lined up for you. Easy pitches.
They're misfires. They're early. You're segueing too early.
Segueing over Justin.
Well, I will say,
Justin hates us today.
That's fine. Just don't make fun of my tea, and we're
He
fine.
doesn't have
Your tea smells great.
Thank you.
He doesn't have caffeinated tea. It's weird.
everybody's tea.
It's because he didn't get the caffeine exactly.
I will say,
Bring your tea.
no one's going to try and mess with your tea, Justin. I will say the Switch has a system seller this fall, and I don't think the PS4 does.
Pokemon?
In Pokemon, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously that pairs nicely with the light.
Yeah. Switch Lite's coming up. Well, we could mention this now.
Oh.
This is a little bit. I was going to say, speaking of that the Switch Lite,
We can switch.
I do think it's going to sell some units, but maybe not among the IGN audience so much, because we ran a poll on IGN.com this week. Over 18,000 people voted. 91% of people were like, "Nah, I'm not interested in the Switch Lite."
Yeah.
I was really taken aback by that. I don't think we've ever run a poll that has that much disparity. And everybody in the office was talking about like what colors they like best. They weren't saying they're all going to get it. Like I just want to point that out. But there's excitement around the colors and like what it is and stuff like that. And like I think it is a downgrade, so it's stupid to buy one.
Yep.
But I bought one.
No, I feel the same.
Got to keep up with the trend.
You're also a collector. Right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
colors
got
are
the
really
one that was
cool.
hard to
Like
get.
I like the
that,
colors.
that console,
I like
like the lines of it and the color schemes, like it seems really great, but like it is a crappier, cheaper Switch. Like they had to find a way to make that console $100 cheaper, so they took away features and functions, and that is really exciting and a perfect fit for a certain segment of our audience, but like not us.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not really for us. I was surprised to see that the opinion on the yellow Switch is beginning to come around to the right side, which is that yellow is the best.
turquoise is the
Thoughts from the
superior
panel?
color.
Yeah, typical.
I have nothing against yellow. I just wouldn't pick it myself. I'm probably more of a.
That was so such a good PR way of saying it. Like it.
I think there was a lot of discussion even in our comments about the colors and stuff. And like, I don't think anybody is, super excited about the color schemes in general.
As long as you don't pick
They're
gray.
weird.
The Pokemon that one's great. The
I
limited
still think
edition.
it's a little ugly. That's one I got. I think it's silly.
Wait, you think it's ugly and you got it?
I'm not going to use it. It's going to stay in the box.
Just because it's more unique
until
than
I
the
flip it in
others?
50 years.
Fair enough.
He's playing the long game. Justin, you like that Mario Maker 2?
Dude, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
You played
playing it.
500 levels?
I cleared 500 levels. I'm at like got to be close to 600 played. I don't know. Yeah, it's great, but that does require online and like to come back. Like I finally, I actually used Twitch Prime. I used an IGN deal that you can get 3 months of Nintendo Online free. And so in 2 months, however much I have left, I'll have to make a decision on like, is this actually something I want to pay for? But I'm not so much of like a direct online multiplayer guy, but like Mario Maker as just a constant stream of amazing, creative, artistic, unique, free levels all the time. Like that's so worth like a cheap online subscription free. It's amazing. The game feels like a miracle.
And you're following makers now. That's what you recommend doing, right?
Yeah, so that's what I do is the game they don't explain it very well at all, but like there's a little star, and if you hit the star, you can follow somebody, and then it's like following somebody on any social platform. As they have new stuff, it appears in a feed. And then, so every time I fire up the game, I've followed, I don't know how many, 20 or 30 makers that are making Nintendo feeling levels. They're not making like weird, gimmicky, gotcha stages. They're just making like really cool, polished levels that feel like Nintendo would make. And so every evening I just have new, excellent levels to play.
Do you have favorite makers?
Yeah, if I follow, I do.
And he's going to write an article about them.
Yeah. Back to your features roots.
It's on.
We'll see.
You're on record now.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, Mario Maker 2, Nintendo reported that it sold 2.42 million units in its first 3 days. So it's doing well. That's not quite well enough to put it in the top 10 yet.
Are we going to talk about those software sales? Because they are unbelievable.
Just for Mario Maker 2?
No, just Nintendo.
Well, I'm not sure what numbers you're referring to.
Oh, well, at the same time they announced the hardware sales, they announced, new updated software sales where it's like, I'm speaking from memory now, but it's like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at like 16 million.
Yeah, it's up
Mario Odyssey is at 14 million. Zelda is now, I think, the best-selling Zelda of all time. That console's a monster. Like even Splatoon 2 is over 9 million copies sold. Splatoon 2!
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just I don't think people consider that game like a 9 million seller.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more than a quarter of all Switch units sold.
Yeah.
Number 10 on the top 10 best-selling Switch games, Mario Tennis Aces is at 2.75 million.
You do have that list right there. I thought you said we weren't going to talk about it.
I just have number 10.
okay.
That's what Mario Maker 2 has to.
Oh.
That's the threshold it has to cross to get in the top 10.
Which you can play free if you have an online subscription.
Like Mario Tennis.
Mario Tennis?
Mario Tennis.
Yeah.
That's
Mario
such an
Tennis
example
Aces.
of like that game came and went, and it's over. It's a 2.5 million seller now. Like you know how many like high profile PS4 and Xbox games never hit that sales total?
That's totally true.
Like the Switch is a software sales monster.
It's also a really good tennis game.
Is it really?
It's a really good tennis game.
I've never played a
It's
Mario
really
Tennis.
difficult. I've talked about it on Scoop before, I think. You guys don't listen.
I think we listen. I think we just prefer to talk.
That's fair.
I want Mario.
play.
You need
Mario
new
Tennis Aces.
Mario Golf. Do you like Mario Golf?
I'm not much of a golf person.
I'm more
but
of a Mario
it's
golf
cute.
guy.
Me too.
Have you-
I can
have
say
you played
video game
Mario
golf
Tennis?
has like very little to do with actual golf. So
Right,
But that's
yeah.
fine.
it's like mini golf.
Fair enough.
You know, I think it's really fun. I don't like golf, but I really like game golf.
I don't like tennis, but I really like Mario Tennis
Yeah,
Aces.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, speaking of video game versions of real life sports, that might be the first video game pool game I played, Side Pocket on NES.
Why would you play a pool game when you were a kid?
I think I spent a summer at my cousin's house, and then in their stack of NES games, they had this pool game, and I would just play, I would play whatever back then.
Yeah, it's like I guess so.
That's where I also played RBI baseball.
Yeah.
I don't care
Nice.
about baseball, but I played a lot of RBI.
We are beholden to our cousin's category of games.
It's
yeah.
definitely the cousin stack.
Yep.
All right, in the 2.5 years since the Switch has been out, EA, Electronic Arts, has released a bunch of games, but has only brought 4 games to the Switch. And those 4 games were 2 FIFAs, 18 and 19, Unravel 2, and Faye. I don't think anybody even remembers Faye.
And they sort of half-assed the FIFAs too.
FIFAs are bad. They both got 5s from IGN.
They kind of adapted them, but like not in a great way.
They were like the last gen versions. Like it's weird.
Yeah. Unravel 2 is good. That got good scores, but then I don't think Faye made much of an impression on anybody. And so on an investor call this week, EA's Andrew Wilson, CEO, was explaining why they don't bring mini games to Switch. He says it's because their customers don't want to play their games on Switch. I don't quite buy it because they haven't really brought Unravel 2 is the best game they've brought to Switch. Anyway, their data, his quote says, "We have a lot of data that would suggest a great many Switch owners also own a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One or a PC, and very often to choose to play the games that we make on those platforms, even though they have a Switch."
I mean, I buy into that.
Yeah.
What about that seems unreasonable?
Well, for me, I think it's funny that they haven't tested their older games, and there's a huge library of EA games out there that I think is silly. But then there's also I think Madden would be totally fine on Switch. I don't know why they wouldn't just try it.
Or they could have brought Apex Legends, Anthem, Sea of Solitude, NHL or NBA Live or Madden, EA Sports UFC 3, Burnout Paradise Remastered, Battlefield 5, A Way Out, Star Wars Battlefront 2, or The Sims 4. Any of those games.
Yeah,
Damon's
Sims,
wish list.
like a lot of these are seriously totally would work on the Switch. And even this fall, I mean, Star Wars, I would play that on the Switch. I don't care about playing that on my PlayStation 4 because of graphics. I just want to play a cool Metroid game.
Yeah.
But I think for EA Sports, considering maybe more of what the demographic would be, where it's a little bit more mainstream, people already have their home consoles. They might not have adapted to the Switch because it's more niche. Maybe they don't have a family that it kind of attributes more of that kind of gameplay style to. So maybe they would prefer to play on their couch with their big ass TV and whatnot.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
see that.
I think I'm a huge Switch fan, but I think I'm kind of on EA's side on this one. As odd as that is, I'm thinking about The Witcher 3 runs at 540p on the Switch. So what are they gonna have to do to Jedi Fallen Order to get that game running on the Switch? What would Anthem on the Switch actually be like? It'd be horrible.
Well, maybe not Anthem is the best choice, but at this point, don't you think Star Wars Battlefront 2 or Apex Legends could run on there?
I don't know.
I feel like a
don't
game
think
like
so.
A Way Out is more appropriate for the Switch.
I think Burnout Paradise Remastered
Agreed.
can run on there.
I think A Way Out is a really good match for the Switch.
A Way Out would have been a good a good fit. And Sam, you name dropped older games like Skate. There's a library of EA content that
All the Sim games.
would probably do okay.
Every Sim City. Sim City would be a really fun, Switch experience. And there was like a really good Sim City on 3DS or DS, I guess.
I suppose it's a bit of the chicken or egg, kind of argument of if they did support maybe some of their older games and did remasters or just ports, maybe there would see like more of an uptick in interest on the Switch. But I believe them that at their current assessment, they're surmising that people would prefer to play based on numbers on their home consoles instead.
I mean, I play my Switch a lot. It's my most played console of this year, but I'm only playing Nintendo-made games on it. I'm not playing.
I play indies.
Yeah, I play most of my indies on Steam.
This also kind of indicates to me that whatever bad decision making EA maybe have had in testing stuff on Switch, that also seems like if we just talked about how like software is converting really well for the Switch, that like EA might not be in a great position right now if they're saying that they're not willing to try anymore on the Switch. I mean, that's messed up.
Yeah,
if they're making really regimented business decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that's
they're
a good
not,
way to put it.
they don't have the room to play around.
Yeah. The experimentation is like kind of they're drawing in, and like, man, that seems to be happening with their games too. I mean, their game release schedule this year is just not as experimental.
Yeah, because culturally, I mean, the Switch is huge.
Well,
so even outside of the numbers,
there's a limited number of, like we just got done talking about how there's 100 million PS4s out there and there's 30 some million Switches out there. So will the Switch end up being a more popular console than the PS4 when the dust settles 10 years from now? Like maybe, but right now in 2019, there are 3 times more people that can buy an EA game on PS4 than on Switch.
Sure.
So
that part I get.
You immediately are in a bad position if you're spending more than 1/3 the resources on a Switch version of a game, which you'd probably have to do because you can build a game once for Xbox One and PS4 and PC, but then you have to have some separate team working on a version that can run effectively on a Switch. So it's tough.
I get that. My point was just that, they're saying they have data that says their customers don't want to play their games on Switch when all they've done is port 2 bad FIFA games and 2 indie games. Well, they don't have enough data.
That's the chicken
not a
or
great
egg.
test.
Like, what are they seeing? What is Bethesda seeing that EA's not?
Yeah,
where like
exactly.
they're leaning so hard in that console and making games like Wolfenstein and Doom, which arguably, like I just talked about how it's hard to get
what
those
just
games.
got announced this week was it Outer Worlds?
Outer Worlds is
Outer
coming
Worlds
to
is coming to
Switch. Yeah.
I think that game is unoptimized on PC, so I'm a little worried about the Switch port. But
right?
Let them worry about that.
Capcom is having lots of success bringing its sort of library games to new platforms, including the Switch, all of its Resident Evils and things like that.
And Monster Hunter.
And Monster Hunter as well. So
Though not
EA in general doesn't seem to have in their DNA, like they do ports and remakes like they did Burnout, but like it's not as heavy a portion of their playbook as it is for almost anybody else right now. Like they have a library of 30-year-old games, but you see Activision leaning into that more with stuff like Spyro, Crash.
yeah.
totally. I don't know why though.
Yeah.
Seems weird.
All right, moving on. That was from Donkey Kong 94, which is very fitting because the Game Boy turned 30 years old yesterday. I guess,
Wow.
actually here in North America.
Happy birthday, Game Boy.
Happy birthday.
We all had a Game Boy, right?
I never had one.
Like the actual
never
original
had
Game
Color
Boy?
or something.
My brothers would borrow it from different friends at a time. That was my experience with the Game Boy.
Yeah, I had a Game Gear and then I had a Game Boy Advance.
We had a
I
Game
never had a
Gear.
Game Boy.
Game Gear.
Yeah.
I remember
preferred to have
opening
Game Boy.
my Game Boy. It was in wrapping paper on Christmas that I could see through, so I knew I was getting the Game Boy. It was like just slightly, and like the Game Boy
cute.
box has 2 robot hands holding a Game Boy. And I could barely make out these hands on it. And I was like, "Oh my god!"
That's adorable.
Yeah. And then it came with Tetris, which was amazing.
Yep.
And that was one of the very few games my parents ever showed interest in because it was so popular and pop culture really got into that. But I remember right after Tetris, there was this series of like really janky games, and Mario Land was really janky, the first Mario game on it.
It's
and
playable today on like a TV screen.
Sure, yeah. And then Castlevania Adventure, which is terrible, and like all these games that got ported. And then there was a wave of amazing games, Super Mario Land and Link's Awakening, and then it would last another 10 years after that.
Oh, yeah.
Pokemon came out for the Game Boy.
That console was
Like, it's
dead and then
crazy.
Pokemon dropped.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and the Game Boy Color was a Game Boy. I mean, it just played Game Boy games and added a few things to some. That was just part of it. And then the Game Boy Advance didn't come till 2001. So 89 to 2001, that whole span had like not only Game Boy games, but like really intricately, like the technology was really adapted and people really knew how to program for the Game Boy by the end of that decade.
Yep.
In a way that no other system ever had.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how not powerful that console is. Like the actual chipset itself and like what people were able to do with it.
It's objectively, technically inferior to its competitors at the time, and yet it's such a huge success.
Yeah, part of the development philosophy there like made that happen because they had two things. One was they had a stock part, which was LCD screens at the time were like in everything, and they're like, we can get these for so cheap. Like let's just make a console based on these. And that was like one consideration, and then the other was battery life, and like it was like totally like we could backlight this. We could like consider colorizing it in these other ways, but like Gunpei Yokoi, the inventor of the Game Boy, he was like so insistent on battery life because he had come out of the Game & Watch. He developed the Game & Watch, and those had like a tiny watch battery in them, and they lasted
Forever.
years.
Yeah.
And you could just play this. It was just like a watch. It was just a watch, And so he was like, we got to get it close to that, which is like such a weird backwards way to come about. Like we always think like, oh, they took the NES and made it into a portable system. That's not what they did at all. They took a watch and made it have a bunch of cartridges. That's crazy.
When two handhelds have gone hand to hand, like head to head, the least powerful one with the better battery life has always won.
How weird is that? But it's always been Nintendo, right? It's like the Game Boy goes up against the PSP and the DS goes up against the Vita, and it kept on going that way.
Yep.
But now they have a system with a terrible battery life.
That's true.
And no competitors.
But their Pro controller will last months and months and months, whereas my PS4
That is weird.
controller will last a day or two.
Yep. It's got that light in it.
Yeah, true.
Well, how did you get a Game Boy?
Also for Christmas, so I would imagine
Cheat?
probably that Christmas set
89.
89, yeah.
See, I didn't know it came out in the summer. I think that's really interesting that it had like this little ramp up for kids to get hyped.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I always just think of that as like such a winter experience when I first got it.
Yeah.
There were so few games out at the time. There was like this baseball game, I think maybe a tennis game.
There's only like 5 games that launched in the US. There's Alleyway.
Yeah, Alleyway.
And then
I had
like
that.
baseball,
That's just breakout.
tennis.
It's just bouncing a ball against bricks.
Yeah.
Baseball and tennis. And those had link. You could link to your friend's game and play those terrible, boring games with your friend.
I'm very fascinated by, Sam, you already touched on this, like those back 5 years of Game Boy where it just kept going. So it's like the early years of Game Boy are what most people kind of think about, but it's like that console overlapped with like Mortal Kombat and huge franchises, and version of those games from the late 90s came to the Game Boy. Like I never owned one, but I borrowed a friend's Game Boy, and he had like Mortal Kombat 2 on the Game Boy. It had 2 buttons. Like
I know.
you can't play that
Yeah,
game.
how are you doing any fatalities or anything?
Donkey Kong Country came to Game Boy with pre-rendered polygons.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Just like it had on Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And it looked great.
Yeah.
I just think it's such a crazy story. In 1989, when the Game Boy was released, Nintendo had no competitors. Essentially, right? Like the Sega Genesis was out, but like we have mentioned multiple times, Sonic the Hedgehog didn't arrive till 2 years later. And that's like when that system really took off. So
and
it's
the
like
Master System and the TurboGrafx were just not taking off anywhere.
Nintendo owns the home video game market. They have no competitors. They could just coast on the incredible success of the NES. They have the Super Nintendo coming. They've captured the attention of kids at home in front of the NES, but they're like, how do we capture kids' attention when they're outside the home, away from their NES, on the playground, in the back of mom's car? They came up with the idea for the Game Boy.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, like, it's really crystallizing for me that now this is the first time.
Liquid crystal display, too.
LCD display. This is the first time in 30 years that Nintendo's not been, a 2-console, like a home console and handheld console company, which the 3DS is still technically around. They're still going to sell, I don't know, a couple million of them this year. But, like, that console's time has passed, clearly. So it's like, is that it? Like, are we going to get another Game Boy? Like,
I want them to bring the Game Boy name back.
yeah.
Because that name died in 2008, I think, when the Game Boy Micro.
You like
What's so funny?
Game Man.
Yeah.
Well, but that's also funny. Like it's just a knockoff of Walkman.
Yeah.
Like Walkman
Yeah.
was like the most popular
Walkman,
brand
Game
in
Boy.
the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's just where it came from. And it's like so shameless. It's just funny that Nintendo would have like gone that direction, but it does sound weird, like out of context. Nobody says Walkman anymore. Nobody has them, and that's like a weird thing. That
maybe it can be like Kleenex, like people just call things by a name.
Mm-hmm. They did absolutely. Games were called Nintendo then. Like there was no question.
Some people still do that.
Yeah,
I'm over playing.
Do you want to play?
Are you playing on your Nintendo?
Yeah.
They
should have had a Game Boy Classic. Not that they can't, but like, they missed the anniversary.
The 30th anniversary would have been a pretty good time to do that.
And now like would have been like now would have been the time. Like there's not a lot going on this summer.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they do have the Mario Maker and Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Maybe those liquid crystal displays are finally out of stock.
I do want to name drop Lucy O'Brien, who wrote a really sweet story for the 30th anniversary yesterday. So everyone should go check it out.
If we do a top 100 games list here, are there Game Boy games ever on it?
Well, we just had a meeting about that where we went through a refresh of the list.
Is it just Tetris?
On the
It's just Tetris and every version of Tetris.
Yeah. Well, maybe Link's Awakening.
On the last list, Donkey Kong 94 is 94th.
Oh, Donkey Kong 94. Yeah, that's another good example.
We were in the meeting. It's fine.
Okay.
Speaking of Donkey Kong, one of these retro or classic gaming blogs I follow, it might be Super Mario Broth, I'm not sure. They unearthed a bulletin this week. This is dated December 11th, 1981. This is a bulletin or a memo that Nintendo distributed to arcades. It says, game Donkey Kong, subject, long gameplay time. The memo reads, some operators have reported an extremely long gameplay time on Donkey Kong for the better players. To remedy this, we have introduced a speed-up kit, which eliminates the primary strategy utilized by this level of player.
Whoa.
The change can be summarized as follows. Presently, if a player climbs to the top of a ladder, the barrels will not come down the ladder, thus providing a safe place to wait. The speed-up kit eliminates this playing strategy, as at all times the barrels come down the ladder 70 to 80% of the time, thus removing this safe position.
That's a real dick move.
Yeah, arcades are so shady, man. Like,
yeah, people got good at their games.
That's only lasting too long. That's from Nintendo.
Yeah. Like,
but
have you ever? I've never seen a Donkey
Nintendo
Kong
needs the arcades to earn, so they buy their arcade cabinets.
Or maybe they just want to rush players off. So
they spent a lot of time talking about. They would never they were walking this tightrope between they were advertising their games to players, but then having a whole separate conversation with arcade operators about how many quarters that machine could earn per hour. Like how short a gameplay session was. Yeah.
Nintendo, the Vegas edition.
Well, but like it wasn't just them; it was everybody, right? Like
they took clocks out of arcade machines.
Yeah, that's how the industry worked, and and that's why the fighting game was like the perfect invention because in other games, if you had a short, unsatisfying play session, it felt horrible. But in a fighting game, like that short turnaround was just sort of built into the entire experience.
Then you're not getting beat by the machine; you're getting beat by another player.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the goal was always a quarter for 2 minutes.
Something like that.
And so if someone got really good at a game and could stay on it, like that was so horrible for an operator.
So that's a version of Donkey Kong that I've never played where you can like pause on the ladders and like chill like in a safe space.
I mean, it's 81, so they fixed it pretty early, right?
Yeah, and the whole point of Donkey Kong is that the score counts down at the top, so it's like you need to get to the top fast. So you can't just hang out. Like you'll die eventually and you won't get any score. So but think about it this way. Shigeru Miyamoto, the world's greatest game designer, intended us to play that game a different way than we've ever played it. And I think that's a little messed up that we've never, because of this quarter situation, we've never actually played the way he intended, which is really a lot more accessible. I think like that first level of Donkey Kong sucks if you've never played Donkey Kong before. It's awful. It's so hard. And I love it now because I played it a billion times, but like I have a Donkey Kong machine. People come over and play it. They're just like, I got up the third ladder. Like, that's not fun. There's like different levels and things to explore in that game. You can't even beat the first damn level. That's stupid. I bet the fires could always go up and down the ladder on the ziggurat level, the pyramid level, though.
Yeah. I wonder, but like, it's also possible that safe space was unintended, just like the Pac-Man one.
Yeah. But it's on the ladders.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of them. There is a Pac-Man safe space.
I just thought when I was a kid playing Donkey Kong, the level of detail and the fact that the barrels that Donkey Kong would throw, if they made it to the bottom, they'd catch fire and then come and chase you. That was so crazy to me. It was like, I can't believe the game even thought to do that.
The game is sentient.
Yeah. Let's check in with listeners.
Hey, listeners.
Listeners, remember you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Ernie in Dallas, Texas did. He says, I'm an avid gamer with a 40-hour-a-week job. I still manage to play at least 18 hours of video games during the weekdays and 17 hours on the weekend, 35 hours in total.
That's very odd. Okay.
He's specific.
Yeah.
Anywho, I usually take a week-long staycation once a year. The prior week to my staycation, I choice one game that I always want to experience and beat that has been on my backlog for a long time. I plan to play it for 60 hours. I never can do it. I can never hit that 60-hour mark and finish the game or even come close. Usually I only get about 15 to 24 hours into the game and wait till my next staycation to play it again. This year I thought I had the perfect plan. I will wake up at 7 o'clock a.m. and get ready to play from 8 to 5 p.m. like my normal job hours and go to sleep at my usual time. It still doesn't work. I only got 26 hours in. My question is, how do you do it? How do you play 40 hours in 5 days? Do you have any tips, tricks, or secrets besides playing a better game?
Yeah, I mean,
Shorter game.
Be on a deadline where you have no choice.
Yeah, have Dan Stapleton as your editor.
Don't sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a secret to it. And, in the words of Nike, just do it, Ernie.
We've all been on long projects. Tino was just on a really long review project.
Oh boy.
And it is life consuming. It's just like that. It's absolutely like, it's not fun sometimes. And it's just, that's how it is.
Yeah.
But if you're not like on a deadline specific thing and you're just playing for fun and you want to finish the game, like it just adds too much weight and stress and pressure. And I feel like it takes away from your enjoyment.
How was your Red Dead 2 playthrough?
Well, actually, like that one was enjoyable because I've been waiting for that game for so long and I was so excited about it and I was enjoying every minute of it. So I would have wanted to stay home every night for a week, which is what I did.
But you got through it
instead of
so
socializing.
fast.
Yeah, it was like from when I got it to when we did the spoiler cast, it was about a week, maybe a full
That's
week.
crazy.
But we do have, like, the spoiler cast was her deadline, right? So it's like for our jobs, we do have that exact thing. It's like if we're reviewing a game, we don't have a lot of time with it. You go home for that weekend and you just do that. And you just play like all day and all night. But, you're also writing notes and actually, critically thinking about the thing. I think that makes it just a little bit different of an experience playing for fun. For fun, like I definitely have games that I don't want to do anything but play that game, but they're far between. They're not like, it's not happening as much as I'd like it to.
I think for Red Dead, I probably would have just like, if I didn't have that spoiler cast deadline, I probably would have like been fishing more and talked to people more and done more side quests. I still did a healthy amount because I wanted to get a good scope of the range of that game. But I would have done a lot more like spending time on those lesser core elements of the game.
I played for a month and I played like as much time as I could and it really drew me in. It was my favorite game that year, but like you were done in a week and a half or something.
Yeah,
right?
I think you definitely saw more than I did.
I think there's a certain special few games that just haunt your waking hours and that you cannot wait to get back to.
Yeah,
them.
I love
The page turners, yeah.
And
That was Red Dead too.
Yeah, and that's not a reflection of like there's games that I love, but I don't feel that compulsion to like this is the only thing I want to do. Like I'm more content to sort of take them in more bite-sized snacks, and it's like same as there's television shows I love that I don't necessarily feel compelled to binge. For me, it was actually Final Fantasy 15.
That was the last one?
Yeah. And it's like, I've played games that I liked more, but like that game, I was so invested in the world and couldn't wait to get back to Noctis and Prompto and the boys. And like, I played that for like an entire weekend and like, I'd get home from work and be like, let's go. And like, you cruise around in the car and go on adventures and take pictures. And, that's fine. Like, that's what I would say to Ernie is just like, you can't force it, man. Like,
Take it at the pace that, feels right for that game.
I think the last game that gave me that feeling was Assassin's Creed Odyssey. But I've been missing that feeling from this year. That's what's feeling is missing.
I had it for Bloodstained for like a certain part of Bloodstained.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, I mean, not unfortunately. I played the game for review. So
Exactly.
I
I kind of ruined that for you. Yeah.
And I also think like it has to do with the intensity level of the game, at least for me, maybe not for everybody. And so for me, like God of War was my game of the year last year. Loved it. But I didn't want to, like, I could play that game for about 2 hours and then it was, so action oriented that I'm like, I just got to chill for a while and like, come back to it the next night. So it's like,
this is, like I have like I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but I have like a really personal connection to playing games by myself on like a Saturday or Sunday morning. And like when I really like something and it's like, you sleep in a little bit, but you're like, you just kind of want to up and play. You can get up early and play a game. Like I love that feeling. It's so rare now.
I love that feeling too. The one inhibition I have about that is I cannot play a video game if like the sun is shining on my TV screen.
Yeah.
Even though like
Skip blackout
if it's like a really bright day, I just can't do it. So I have to wait.
Is it the guilt trip of like you should be outside right now?
I have that.
First of all, I don't like
I
that.
have that a little bit.
I have
especially
that,
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
but I also don't like that.
Can't waste a good day.
The quality of my screen is being diminished by the sunlight.
Just get blackout curtains.
So even if you have like your curtains dimmed and it's not direct reflection, you're just like, I'm not getting the full like brightness of this game.
Yep.
Wow,
You need
that's surprisingly neurotic of you. I like it.
I'm playing The Sinking City right now, and it's sort of like this in-between space where like I like the story, but it's not a particularly like good-looking game, or like the mechanics also aren't particularly great. It's a little bit like, this is kind of insulting, but it's kind of middleware.
Middleware.
Yeah, so I feel compelled by the story, but at the same time, I'm like, I could also go outside on a nice day instead. So it's not quite the same page turner. So I'm just taking.
Do you guys ever do the wake up and play thing on weekends?
Well, I have
Absolutely.
kids.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I have a cat and a wife.
Yeah. No, I mean,
They're asleep still.
it's
like right now.
Like, no, I don't play video games when they're awake.
Yeah.
There are games that I'm annoyed that I have to stop at some point of the day to cook myself something to eat.
Isn't that
before
great?
I get back to it? And I'm like, I might just eat this really quickly so I
Dude,
can get back to
I
it.
love that feeling too. But man, again, like Red Dead was the last one that was really like that for me. And I'm starting to be a little bit sad about that.
Yeah, I think that was the last one for me too.
Yeah, I like Mario Odyssey and of course Breath of the Wild were like games that I just couldn't wait to get home and play. And everybody here was playing them too, so that was really fun.
All right,
Let's find a good game to play, everybody.
Let's find a good game to play. Maybe Borderlands 3.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that one.
Fire Emblem.
That's gonna be my page.
Yeah, maybe
I
Fire
need to.
Emblem. I
I need to get into Fire Emblem. All right, one more email before we get to 20 questions.
Oh.
It ends
I can
abruptly
finish it.
because that's the false happy ending in Donkey Kong.
That's so cute.
That's the first time. These are the first times I've ever been able to peg the game.
This is Alec, or Mr. Dan's.
What?
He says, I've been a listener for over 3 years. I love listening to you guys. Has made me better at analyzing video games. Anyway, I'm a middle school math and religion teacher. Odd combo.
Nice.
In case I have students listening, shout out from Mr. Dan's. About 3 times a year, I run a Nintendo night for my students. I bring a bunch of TVs and all my Nintendo gear, including pretty much all Nintendo consoles, amiibo, strategy guides. I organize a tournament each night, usually Mario Kart, Double Dash, or Super Smash Bros., and give medals to the top 3 players. This is a really cool teacher.
Yeah.
While the tournament runs, kids can go to other classrooms and experience games from the NES to the Switch. The games that are most often the hits of these gatherings are the ones that allow for chaotic multiplayer gameplay with more than 4 people. Games such as Runbow, Stickbold, Double Dash, and the last 2 iterations of Smash Brothers are always hits. I love watching the kids play these. Do you have any suggestions for fun, local multiplayer Nintendo consoles that feature the ability to play with more than 4 people? Mario Kart Double Dash, you can play with more than 4 people?
I guess. Was
Well,
the
I
one
guess
in the back
because
of the
it's
cart?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
I guess that's why it counts.
The
Yeah.
game, whatever the GameCube multi-tap was called.
I just don't remember. It's been so long.
You can, but you need some kind of special equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's Splatoon that we mentioned earlier.
More than 4
many
players is tripping me up. Like, I don't really know that many.
I have a few that are on Switch. Towerfall.
Is that? But that's 4 players, isn't
It's
it?
6 players.
Oh, cool.
Towerfall is from the Celeste
Does Fortnite count?
developer.
Oh, I guess they're talking
Well,
about local.
they're talking local
though.
multiplayer.
Yeah.
Wait, the Celeste team is the Towerfall team?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Or
know
like the
that.
main, like the main guy, I think. The main
That's
guy that made
really-
Towerfall also made Celeste.
I had no idea that was a through line there.
Sam, what about the Jackbox Party Pack?
Oh, that's a really good suggestion.
I was going to suggest that.
Yeah, those are up to 8 players.
But those might be a little dirty for kids.
Well, it's a bundle of games. I think only one of them is vulgar.
They might be
Mario
a little
Party?
body.
That's
How many
4-player.
players in Mario Party? There's a
Yeah.
It's hard to think of.
Party Golf is an 8-player video game golf game, but you're taking turns, but still it's
I recommend Bomberman on any system.
Yeah.
But I looked it up, and there's a game called Bomberman R for Switch that has 6 to 8 players, which is cool.
I don't think
That's
it's
usually
Not
fun.
fewer than 6?
Yeah, no, it does. It's just like you have to like do something special. I can't remember what I was reading about it. Maybe it said like how to play with 4 to 8 players, 5 to 8.
Yeah, I don't think it's a particularly great Bomberman game, but maybe in multiplayer.
But there are old Bomberman games, and there's on the Wii there was a which you can't get anymore. I guess there was a Bomberman that was for Turbo Graphics that was 8-player that you could play on the Wii. But
Not the Saturn one?
Yeah.
the NES and the Super NES have like a 4-player adapter that you can play the games on, but all the games are bad. So you can play Gauntlet.
Sam's suggesting Wii because it's a Nintendo night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He sets up old Nintendo systems in
yeah,
every room.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, if you don't already have that on your Wii, the Wii shop is dead.
Yeah. So my favorite of all time, more than 4-player game, hands down, is WarioWare. And there's a really good GameCube WarioWare, and it's super fun.
That's a good one.
And you hand the controller around, so you can play with multiple people, and it's just excellent.
That was good.
So perfect.
Even the one on Wii was good.
And I don't know I think it has 2 more than 4 player modes in it, but they're not like exactly like mini game playing ones.
We played that a lot. We spent a lot of time playing WarioWare GameCube in college.
There's also, I picked this one, but now that I think about it, it probably wouldn't be super fun for your students. Worms WMD, you can play 6 players, but that's a turn-based strategy game, so maybe that'd be a little slow.
Be a long night.
That
I love
crowd.
Worms.
Is Killer Queen on the Switch? Or is it still coming? It's
think it's still
coming
coming.
out. I don't know whether it was ever released.
Yeah, I think Killer Queen is still forthcoming. And that brings us to Video Game 20 questions.
Is this going to play while we play?
It's just a little intro.
Okay.
This is the title screen for Donkey Kong 94. Our suggestion this week comes from Zach from Hamilton, New Jersey.
Oh, we got this.
And he says, this game is one of my favorite video game soundtracks.
Well,
Oh, you think
that
you know
could have
it?
been a question we could have asked.
But it's a
just
hint.
one of
Is this one of
Zach's
Zach's favorite?
Video game soundtracks?
It's a hint.
David say, I'm not sure.
Let the,
They would be like, actually, yes.
let the questioning begin.
Does this game have food or drink in it?
No.
You're just trying to be different.
It seems like Damon really knows this game.
Yeah.
Hint. No.
He's
Would
No
you
food
say?
or drink.
Well, okay. Would you say Contra has food or drink in it?
All right, is that your question that you're asking as part of the game?
No, I'm asking it as a friend.
Contra does not have any food or drink in it, to my knowledge.
Okay, you're a good friend.
I tried.
I was like, is this a trick question? Because like I don't think
We just quoted a movie.
he's in the jungle. They must be
scoop.
drinking
Movie
something.
scoop. Well, not on screen.
Got it. It's
So
implied.
far, you know, there's no food or drink in this.
And then it has
to
good
know.
music to somebody in New Jersey.
Well, actually,
I have a
that is
lot of
useful.
information. I think I know what
That
this
is actually. Oh yeah, go for it.
I think is this Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest.
Okay, hold on, settle down.
Well, actually, since we know there's no food or drink in it, it's probably not an RPG game. We know that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no items in your inventory
Yeah.
that you don't eat the entire game because you don't know whether you should. Because if you eat them early on, they might be worth something else later.
Yep.
So you just keep them in your inventory.
No potions in this game.
Does that count as a
Should
drink?
we keep asking questions or should we just end it?
Yeah, that's probably good.
Okay.
That's all the excuse we have for you.
Is this game from before the year 2000?
Yes.
Cool.
Do you play as a? I don't know. I was gonna try to be like unique about it, but that's not really useful. I'll just go more. Is it a platformer?
No.
Did it come out before 1990?
No.
Did it come out on cartridge?
Yes.
Wait, what was your date question? I thought you had that.
2000. So it's between 90 and 2000.
Oh, okay.
That's 5 questions.
What was?
And
what was Sam's
it's available on
cartridge?
cartridge. And
Yes, it's okay.
What was the question you just asked? Sorry.
Is it available on cartridge? And it is.
Oh, and that's right. Okay, that's right. And your question was what?
It came
Between
out
90 and
after
2000.
Oh, that's right.
1990.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got caught in my head for a second. Do you? I'm going to keep with the protagonist player thing. Do you play as one character?
As opposed to what?
I don't know. As opposed
than
to
one.
like, yeah, like, are you like a single protagonist or? I'm thinking like, yeah.
Can
like
you choose your character? Is that what you're getting?
Let's go with that one instead.
But that's like a bigger question because in some games you change per level. You change by a different character.
That's true.
Well,
Maybe that was a dumb.
Do you just
question.
play as the same character the whole game?
yes, you play as the same character.
That's all she's
the whole
asking.
game.
Yeah, that was kind of a dumb question.
No, it's not.
Go for it.
Did this game come out on the Super Nintendo?
Yes.
And it's not a platformer.
SNES. Yeah.
Does this game? Oh boy, is this made by a Japanese developer?
Yes.
Okay. Is it part of a series?
Yes.
Was this game made by Nintendo?
No. That's 10.
Do you play as a human?
Yes.
He hesitated though.
Would you describe this as a role-playing game?
No.
Has this game? I kind of want to ask, like, is it current? Like, has there been a remaster, remake? Like, does port count as current?
Is there a
Or
current rendition of this game?
That's kind of all encompassing. Is that a cheat?
Like rendition, or do you mean like a port or a sequel? Which
Like,
It'd be
has
the
there been
opposite
a
of a
recent
cheat. It would just hurt
release?
us.
Well, no, because I'm trying to get out like
Okay.
well, I guess yeah.
You know
it
that
would
it's
be
part
unclear.
of a series, right? So
Yeah.
a new release in the series is currently in the works.
A new release in the series, so it's still a modern series.
Okay. That's actually a really good hint.
Could it be? Well, it can't be Final Fantasy related.
Mana.
Why not?
It's 2 RPG.
Food.
We already asked about the RPG stuff.
Food and drink.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's not an RPG, which is an even better.
We assume.
Well, I was thinking Mana, which doesn't have
Sam
food and
asked.
drink, but I asked about RPGs.
Oh, he asked.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping up today.
Okay, what at the time it was released, was this game a SNES exclusive?
Yes.
So Japanese made SNES exclusive, not
But
made
not
by
Nintendo.
Nintendo, not an RPG, not a platformer.
Play as a human.
Play as a human,
Is this
A single person.
a top-down game?
a single human.
No, it is not a top-down game. That's 15, which means
Boy.
We already got to 15. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Why'd you turn it down so much?
You want it louder?
I want to jam.
Because it agitates me in particular.
Oh, really?
I find it very stressful and hard to think of
It is.
questions.
Yeah, it is stressful. It's fine. We have 5 questions left. That is stressful.
Should we ask about how you kill stuff in this game? Or
Don't play as a top-down perspective.
Well, we need to know. I think we need to know genre at this point.
Yeah, because it could be like a flight game or something. I don't know.
Not a platformer.
What's a
not an
Japanese
RPG.
series today
It could be
in the works?
I'm thinking shooter.
Like,
not a
what's in
top-down
the,
shooter.
Are you thinking of one in particular, or just thinking?
No, so I guess it's side-scrolling. It's not a platformer, right? So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's
Nor
not
is
an
it
RPG.
but it is a console exclusive, and it's not from the top down.
It's probably no longer a console exclusive. We could ask.
So it could be like, I don't know, like some sort of like Battletoadsy style, like brawling game. Although many of those had selectable characters.
Yeah.
Well, I'm stuck on this. Like, it's a current series still
That's a good point.
that extends back to the SNES.
Could be
And maybe even further.
some sort of racing
I guess that's true.
game.
Yeah. Japanese made.
Also, we asked if you play as
What do
a
you think?
human. Sometimes when we ask that and you're in a spaceship, he's like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's
That's
an
kind of what I was
assumption
driving
there.
at.
Of course,
Like,
though.
is it like a strategy game?
might
Like,
know
are
this
you
one.
controlling multiple groups of people or whatever? What?
Spaceships can be piloted by humans.
I know.
Yeah.
Is this a shooter?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So we got 4 questions to figure out
A
which
Japanese
shooter
shooter
this is.
from the
I'm thinking
SNES.
R-Type or Gradius 3.
What is currently in the works?
I've just mentioned as many as you can so we can excuse the cheat.
There is
And
a
ask
new,
if we've
there is a
mentioned it
new
yet.
Gradius in the works.
Is there?
Yeah, they announced. I forget what it's called, like Final Gradius 2 or something like that.
Mm.
What's the new Gradius called, Damon?
I don't know.
You son of a bitch. Yes.
Can I Google it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're allowed to Google
Yeah, I
it.
don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
Here, go ahead.
But there's food in Gradius. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's Gradius 3. So
How
Well,
is
if there
he
if it is like there is a modern version, then yeah.
is this
Could
game
be.
made by Konami?
No.
okay.
3 left.
Well,
Konami makes Gradius just to make the readers clear on that.
Well, shooter could be first person or third person.
I can't remember who
back then.
makes R-Type, but Nintendo published it for arcades, so could be
really?
R-Type.
In the arcade?
We also have, so other shooters include like UN Squadron and what's it called, Darius.
Unless there's some insane sequel to UN Squadron in the works. That's like such a good bet.
I'm leaning R-Type. I don't know where to go from here though. There's other shooters and there's like weird ones that I just don't.
Is
I'm
it
not gonna
helpful to
very
know
well.
it's a spaceship shooter at this
Yeah,
point?
for sure.
Ooh,
Is it a spaceship? Space? Are you in a spaceship?
Yes.
is it a space?
Do you?
Do you guys know anything about R-Type? I don't really know that game.
Yeah,
very
I
well.
know that it's in space, but then you fight weird. It's got this weird like body horror element with these like horrific aliens, and you're usually like going inside of them in like the final stage of the game
many
and
questions
shooting
do we
some some pulsing
Oh, boy.
heart. That's how those games always have a weird. Yeah.
Did we mention this game yet?
Yes.
Is it
What?
R-Type?
Is that your final question?
Is there a current?
What are we? I guess it could be
Probably.
UN Squadron.
You think so?
It's not a new UN Squadron. And that's also not a space game.
What's the other one? Darius?
No, it's
Twin? Darius Twin?
It's probably R-Type.
I don't know.
Or
what
is
to do.
Damon trying to?
But
say
we have
this?
2 more questions.
No, we're out. This is it.
This is it.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
Okay. I don't know what to do. People mainly know about R-Type,
Well, we
right?
can
You guys
only
are-
guess at
Is
this
this R-Type?
Your question is this the original
Super R-Type. What?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I was really worried about that for a second.
It is super R-Type.
Nice.
For the
I didn't even know there was a Super R-Type. I just added Super. Sometimes you just got to add Super.
They're working on a sequel.
They're kickstarting a new R-Type.
Oh, maybe that's what I was thinking of instead of Gradius.
I haven't heard about a Gradius, so I think that's what you're thinking about, yeah.
Is it called R-Type Final 2? I remember thinking the name.
I'm sure it's something like that, yeah. So something. IRIM developed R-Type and published it on Super Nintendo, although you're right that Nintendo published the arcade version of the original.
There's
R-Type.
a Nintendo arcade cabinet for R-Type, and it looks like a Donkey Kong cabinet.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
It's weird.
Yeah, those games are cool, and it's Super R-Type is apparently one of Zach's favorite video game soundtracks.
Oh yeah, we forgot that clue.
Maybe I'll try to.
We messed up.
I'll have to try to use.
Do you have
Could have gotten
jams
this
from
in
it?
15.
I didn't get any for this time, but in a future episode,
Look it up on YouTube. We'll listen.
I'll play some Super R-Type.
He's got to be in that space.
We have 15 minutes till this meeting we all have to go to, and you haven't had lunch. So
I haven't had lunch.
Damn. All right.
please let us end this episode.
You're a good
of
friend,
Game Scoop.
Damon.
I try. Everyone, 3/4 of us have seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's a really good
I
movie.
don't even remember that line. I saw it last
It's
night.
the final line.
Highly recommend.
Oh,
Not the
yeah.
final line.
It is, right?
It's not of the
it's
whole
not-
movie, no.
yeah.
but-
Oh, sorry. It's when they're saying goodbye to each other. Yeah.
It's a sweet line.
Anyway, that's all the scoops that we have for you this week. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address, gamescoop@ign.com. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Tina. My name is Damon. This is IGN Game Scoop, and we're out.